The truth is that while everyone tells us to study, no one teaches us how to study. The reality is that smart note-taking techniques will help you get your work done quickly and leave you with enough free time to lead a balanced life. So in today's video, we are going to talk about how to make smart notes to save time and have the highest output. We're also going to talk about whether you should take notes on a laptop or on a notebook, how to make the best notes in class, both in theory subjects and in numerical based subjects. And finally, we're going to talk about how to make notes from your textbook and some special time-saving tips. So let's get going. Hey everyone, this is Chetna and you're watching ChetChat. It's a Friday once again. And let's first break one myth. You don't have to make your notes pretty. You just have to have them organized. And now for rule number one. Rule number one is always go to class. It'll take twice as long studying to make up for what you've missed. Attending class is the biggest time-saving tool there is. But just attending class is not enough. You have to take good notes. Note-taking is an art form, and here are some proven note-taking techniques. First, let's talk about the big question, laptop versus notebooks. So tell me in the comment section below which one you prefer. Do you prefer to make notes directly onto a laptop or a notebook? And now let me start by giving you the pros and cons of both. A laptop is increasingly becoming common, and most students can type faster than they can write. In fact, we've almost forgotten how to write. What's more, you can store all the information in one place. But laptops have their own challenges. In math, science, economics, or engineering-based subjects, there will be a lot of numbers and equations, which kind of become challenging on a laptop. And the second biggest problem is notifications. But overall, the biggest challenge of using laptops is when you're making notes, you're going to just end up writing everything that the teacher says verbatim. Formatting tends to be time consuming, and this has proven to result in lower test scores overall. So I recommend notebooks. I love notebooks. And if you're like me, you're going to keep one for every subject. I prefer these larger size notebooks so that you can write comfortably. Use a couple of colored pens, maybe one or two, but like I said, you don't need to make your notes pretty. You just use the pens to highlight important information. And here's the strategy. If you want to keep your notes organized for a long time, then at the end of every week, type out summaries of your handwritten notes. That way, you go over them once again and you also retain them in one place. This is exactly what I do when I'm researching topics for you. I first read, I research online, then I make mind maps and I write it in my notebook, and I finally put it all onto my laptop. That way, my ideas are finely distilled and crisp. Question number two. How to organize all the material. Now you get sheets, you get assignments, there are notebooks. So I recommend keep one folder and one notebook per subject. Put all outlines, assignments, printouts, etc. in that one folder. And before we talk about how to make notes in theoretical subjects, I want to give a shout out to your unknown friend for leaving this super inspiring message under my last video, which got so many likes from you. And if you want a shout out in my next video, quickly leave me a comment below with the hashtag ChetChatters. Now, talking about theory subjects. The teachers tend to just ramble on, and it takes dozens of hours to listen, read, and figure out the big ideas or key takeaways. Let's dive into the details of how to do all of this while attending class. Technique number one. The devil is in the details. Write the date and the title of the day's notes. While saving notes on your laptop, create a separate directory for each class. Save your doc in this folder with the date and the file name. Now, while using a notebook, try to use that second color pen or highlighter or writing sort of for key sort of emphasis lines in the class itself. Develop your own shorthand if you're writing. I use ESP for especially, MT for mountain, and the ohm symbol when I want to talk about resistance. You tell me your special secret shorthand that you use to make notes in class and leave me a comment below. Use asterisks, make certain parts bold as the teacher emphasizes them. Or maybe you want to underline them. Maybe you want to draw boxes around important formulae, or you want to make an arrow to indicate cause and effect relationships. Remember, your notes are for you alone. They can be secret, they can be coded, they can be a bit messy, it doesn't matter. As long as you understand them, that is all that there is. Remember, your notes don't have to be pretty, they just have to be organized. Technique number 2 is QEC. Question, evidence, conclusion. The main challenge of note-taking in theory subjects is deciding what to write. Most teachers present big ideas in the form of questions. So step number 1, identify the question and label it well. Highlight it with a second color or bold text or draw a box around it. Example, in a literature class, this might be something like, who was the greatest novelist of the 20th century? Notice my shorthand. Step number 2. After the question comes the points or reasons. I call them E for evidence. Jot down all the reasons in bullet points. And finally, look for the conclusion, C. How does the teacher conclude the argument? In the margin, write Q for question, E for evidence, and C for conclusion. Do this for every question the teacher discusses. Remember, writing is not the outcome of thinking. It is the process during which thinking takes place. So don't write every word the teacher says verbatim. Write in bullet points, and your final notes might actually look something like this. I will also share a link to a previous video where I have discussed a similar QAEE technique and other great tips for taking notes. Pro tip, take advantage of the lull in the class. When the teacher goes off on a personal anecdote, use this time to hurriedly go back and clean up your notes, record conclusions, and clarify questions. If there were too many ideas, make a quick mind map for yourself, because you're bound to forget a few of these things when you finally sit down to revise a few days later. Pro tip number 2 is to spend 5 to 10 minutes after the class gets over. This is the key. If you read your notes right after class, you will absorb them and make corrections and additions. These little moments make a big impact. Now let's talk about how to make notes in a mathematical subject. In class, now in mathematical or technical subjects, the note-taking strategy is actually much simpler. The strategy is to record as many sample problems as possible. Teachers have a tendency to cover various types of difficult problems in class. Make notes of all the steps. This will help you when you get stuck. But how do you do that? You're always short of time. So here is my 4-point technique. First priority, record the problem statement and the answer. Second priority, question the confusing. Ask questions when you don't understand a specific step. Is it annoying? A little bit. Does this improve your understanding? Absolutely yes. So raise your hand, be confident, and ask away. Third priority, record the steps of the sample problem. And fourth priority, annotate the steps. And if you have time, write a little explanation on the side. This way, your notes will be your Bible to go back to if you get stuck in any of the problems later on when you're practicing. Next, let's talk about how to make smart notes from your textbook. Now, while reading your textbook, remember that the questions can come from any part of the chapter. In fact, teachers are very clever, aren't they? So usually, most chapters in textbooks are arranged into topics and subtopics. At the end of each subtopic, ask yourself, question, what is the big question? E. Evidence. In between, write a few bullet points of evidence or proof. And C. Finally, write the conclusion. QEC. If the question or conclusion is not clear to you while the class is going on, ask the teacher. And when you're studying at home, go back and ask the teacher as well. Another thing you can do is leave a little space for them and you can come back to it later. One final tip. Prepare memorization aids as you study. Have a deck of flashcards per subject and keep making them on the go. Whenever you encounter a concept, a formula, a chemical equation, or anything that you think you might forget, make a quick flashcard and add it to your deck. And every day, while passing by your deck, just randomly pick up one flashcard, quiz yourself, and put it back. Easy, time-saving, super smart note-taking tips only on ChetChat. So try out these techniques and I guarantee you that your performance will skyrocket instantly. And meantime, subscribe to the channel for a new video every Friday and do hit that like button and happy learning.